Good evening. I'm Emaad sitting in for Dina Osman. Amidst a period of celebrations here in Egypt on the occasion of the 6th of October war victory against Israel, tension exacerbates in the region with the ongoing battles against terrorists in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen, in Iraq, and in other countries facing threats from governments or foreign government-backed attempts to destabilize the region. A nation which has been confronting human rights violations, occupation, demolition of homes, and other many flagrant abuses. Tonight, we shed light on the developments there in light of the Palestinian president's latest decision to withdraw from the Oslo so-called peace process, as well as the positive note, which is the raising of the Palestinian flag in the United Nations during the latest United Nations 70th General Assembly meetings. What does that mean for Palestinians and for the prospects of peace, the withdrawal from the Oslo peace process? A peace that is moving further day after day with the current Israeli leadership, which insists on the instigation of confrontation, especially in light of the violation not only of the human rights, which is a constant practice over the years, but also of the holy Al-Aqsa Mosque and the Old City in East Jerusalem, the capital of Palestine. These are issues we will be delving into with our guests tonight. The current situation in Palestine, what is taking place up to this minute, what does the regional makeup of the political or strategic situation in the region mean for the Palestinian issue? These are issues we'll be delving into with His Excellency Ambassador Hazem Abu Shanab, who is a member of the Revolutionary Council of the Fatah movement, and also with us Dr. Ahmed Mehena, a professor of political science. A pleasure to have both of you here on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
We were talking before we started the show, and you said, can we come up with breaking news? If you have breaking news about the current situation in Palestine, what is place currently? What is it?
Breaking news is that the Israelis are attacking Hebron now, and they attacked the so many houses of the Palestinians, shooting their bullets against the citizens. And on their way out, they tried to kidnap a little child from the streets of Hebron. Breaking. I don't know what did this little child do. Maybe he's a big terrorist and we don't know. The other breaking is the toll of the injuries. Today, now we are talking about a statistic, more than 288 civil Palestinians are injured now during only the day's actions. So these are big numbers. The actions, the aggressions against the Palestinians, the civil Palestinians are too much, and they are provoking every human on the globe. I believe that these Israeli actions are pushing everyone towards not to be settled and not to keep quiet in the Palestinian.
But the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came up a few years ago and said he is looking to strengthen the laws against the Palestinians who are hurling stones, and also calling for strict armed confrontation against the Palestinians that are hurling stones.
This is happening on the ground now. It's not only he was talking, now he is acting like this on the ground. The Israeli soldiers are using the live bullets against the Palestinians severely. I believe also that so many attacks against the Palestinians, the numbers of the Palestinians who are injured and the killed persons are getting higher and higher. We are talking about, during the last few days, we are talking about more than
1047.
Yes, 1,047 of injuries among the Palestinians during the last few days. Today it's only more than 88. We are talking about almost 10 Palestinians were killed. The usage of the live bullets means that we are talking about either getting killed or a serious injury, which means that we are going to have handicaps in the future, in addition to the previous tens of thousands of Palestinians who are already kidnapped because of the Israeli wars. So Benjamin Netanyahu is doing what he is threatening with. He is using the Israeli laws against the Palestinians, and he is using this seriously. Demolishing the houses by the Israeli forces, going to the houses of the persons that they are calling that they are terrorists among the Palestinians. After the killing of this Palestinian person, they go to his house and they demolish the whole building that his family might be living in, an apartment or something. They demolish the whole building. House. Yes, the whole building. So we are talking about injustice. We are talking about even.
But what did you? I mean, currently with the situation in the region, all international attention is being given to the situation in Syria, the situation in Yemen, the situation in Libya. The United States is spearheading a force which to date has not been effective in targeting the terrorists that they have said they will target, even though they have the latest spy equipments, the latest satellites, and the latest technological advancements that leads them to photograph every little tiny piece of anything that's moving on the ground.
Yes.
And the Russians are now there's an accusation that the Russians are targeting the so-called freedom fighters in Syria. So all world attention is anywhere but Palestine. Wasn't there an expectation that there will be a flare-up of Israeli violence against the Palestinians?
Yes, I believe that we were expecting. The Israelis did say, the Israeli ministers did say that in the media loudly before they started their aggression against us, against the Palestinians. They said that this is the suitable time. I'm quoting the words of the Minister of Justice. She's a lady in Israel, and she said this is the suitable time for Israel to take over the West Bank and to take over Jerusalem, Al-Quds.
This is true practitioner.
This is what she said. Another one said the same, and he said this is also, he added, and it's the suitable time for kicking out the Palestinians out of Palestine. So they are talking about creating new immigrants of the Palestinians, I mean sending us to the diaspora, evacuate the rest of the lands of Palestine, and to occupy the whole territories again and to build their settlements. Before I come to the studio, there was, I was with the decision of the Israeli cabinet. They decided to build new 1,000 unit of settlements in the West Bank and in Jerusalem especially. Why? Because
in East Jerusalem.
Yes. Why? Because Mr. President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine, he said that I'm ready to go back to negotiations if the Israelis stop the settlements, building the settlements. So they are retaliating. They are responding by issuing the permissions to build 1,000 new Israeli unit of settlements. So was it expected? Yes, it was expected by the Israelis. Israel is an occupation force, so they are doing what they think that they can continue and to achieve their targets of occupying Palestine.
Right.
They came by with two principles: evacuating Palestine from their population, and the other thing is to import citizens, between brackets Jews, to the Holy Land of Palestine, and to make them settle in Palestine.
Status quo.
Yes.
Create a new status quo. Dr. Ahmed, let's move back a little bit. The Palestinian president, when he was in the United Nations, he announced the withdrawal of Palestine from the Oslo peace process. What does that mean?
Basically, the Oslo Code was issued to allow the Palestinians and the Israelis to get back into the round table and negotiate on a number of conditions that certain rights will be given to Palestinians, one after the other. And since that time, since 1992, the Israelis have not been really committed to actually go back to the table committedly and freely to actually give some rights back to the Palestinians. If we actually look at the conflict, any conflict, you find always the conflicting parties, and on top of that you find the cover by the supporters. The Palestinians do not have the cover from the Arab League or the Arab nations even surrounding them. But on the Israeli side, they have the cover from community, particularly
But that's not
States.
what the Arab League says. The Arab League says it supports the Palestinians.
Well, it supports them verbally.
This is what we hear.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of the cover, we're going to look at the support now, the different types of support. The support that's coming from the United States is basically creating a chaos in the region, drawing the attention of the international community away from the actual core of the crisis in the Middle East, which is the Palestine case. It's not Syria, it's not Libya. The core of the crisis in the Middle East and the Arab nation is Palestine. And if that is resolved, everything else will be resolved. So the fact here is, they're providing Israel with a cover on the media front, on the international community. They're neutralizing completely the Security Council and United Nations as a whole. They're creating a chaos in the region, drawing the Arabs' attention into other areas of terrorism, such as Daesh and whatever, and they are created there. So in the end,
They are created.
the support of the terrorist groups been acknowledged many times, that there is a support from the Western society, building on the mega plan of dividing the Middle East into
Western governments, not societies. Western governments.
Western governments,
Right.
From the 56 countries in the Middle East into 88, and one of them is basically that's gone through, you know, Iraq to 4 countries, etc. So the fact here is they're going on a systematic to divide the Middle East into smaller nations, number one. Number two, cover completely Palestine, and the case of it becomes totally forgotten. So I think the withdrawal from the Oslo Code announced by Mr. Mahmoud Abbas is definitely the right decision, because if you're not benefiting from any agreement that is taking place among the conflicting parties, staying in it. So the fact here is it gives a dignity, some sort of dignity to the Palestinians, and we're not going to accept a weakness peace, which basically was announced, President Sadat, that the peace has to be built on equality. So you cannot really hold me into a peace accord in the same time you're actually not committed to it. During the General Assembly meeting, it was very clear that Mr. Abbas is very content with the Palestinians to take the Eastern Jerusalem, but this at this point, Mr. Ambassador, basically, as he said, they are invading Western Jerusalem, refusing completely East Jerusalem, so refusing completely to give any part of it. Still, despite the agreements, despite the negotiations, they're still announcing that Jerusalem is the sole capital of Israel. So you're agreeing with me on one thing, and on the other thing you're actually acting differently. And therefore, I think it was the right decision to withdraw from the peace accord. And from now on, I think we need to change the style of support of the weak Arab nation that is totally neutralized, has absolutely no role whatsoever. And we've seen that in Iraq, we've seen that in Syria, we've seen that in Libya. All they do is we refuse and we support. I don't want you to support verbally, I want you to do something. And I was talking to Mr. Ambassador before the actual episode, and I still think that step number one, to provide a support cover, absolutely legitimate cover on the diplomatic, political, economic and social to the Palestinians, we need to reform of the Arab League. The Arab League needs to be reformed, because at this point, and let me tell you that the constitution of the Arab League in 1945 was written by Eden, the Prime Minister of England. So the Arabs never established the Arab League. The Arab League was established by the British to make sure that they do it for them before the Arabs do it. And therefore, the actual constitution was written by Eden and his party. So you find at this point that in terms of voting, it's not binding to the countries that don't vote. So in other words, if 10 vote for yes against 5, it becomes binding for the 10 that said yes, and the 5 are totally out of it. So at this moment, the Constitution does not allow having a united army. The united army that you see in Yemen is based on the resolution or the Articles of United Nations self-defense. It's not based on the Arab League constitution. And therefore,
you're talking about the Arab League Charter.
The Arab League Charter. So at this point, the Palestinians need a cover, diplomatic, political, and even military cover. And that can only come from the League as a unity. And we need to relook at the Arab League.
But what you're saying, of course I respect what you're saying, but I see it as unrealistic. Because
Why?
at the current stage, with all the developments that are going on in the region, you have an Arab world that is confronting many threats, many challenges, many priorities, if you will. And this will definitely not be on the priority list.
I agree with you, but let me tell you, the chaos that is causing is basically isolating the countries. Exactly what they're trying to do is isolate you, make you closed down.
Let me take you back to the Joint Arab Force.
Right.
Isn't that an example?
No. The Joint Arab Force is based on self-defense.
No, but I mean, we couldn't reach an agreement there.
On the Arab League?
On the creation of the Joint Arab Force. Of course. No, I'm not saying to use it in Palestine. I'm saying we couldn't reach an agreement there. And we've been postponing, and nothing has been signed to date.
Yes.
So you're talking about a reform of the whole Arab League.
Continuous.
Exactly. But let me take it a step further, because I think this is more theoretical than practical.
Right.
Practical here, I would say, let's go back to the 90s peace process,
right,
if you will, and the progress that was made during the
was it Rabin?
Rabin times. The progress that was made there, and due to the progress he was assassinated, which is kind of expected. But what I want to say here is, will there be an Israeli reception to going back to the negotiating table without real pressure from Palestinians? You had the first Intifada, which contributed greatly to the transformation of events. The second, some people are debating, but there was some sort of pressure there. The current situation in the Palestinian territories, and here I'm referring to the West Bank and to Gaza, and the discord that is present between Fatah and Hamas. Can there be a joint approach to the situation, or is the Hamas agenda a totally different agenda from the Palestinian?
Okay. First, let me comment on the very good words of my
Dr. Mehna.
Yes, Dr. Ahmed, I know, His Excellency, I would like to say. Regarding what he said, theoretically it's very, very, very excellent words. I believe that we, the Palestinians, we don't have this privilege of waiting for the Arabs themselves, especially that we know that there are foreign items that they are pressuring or influencing what's happening in the Arab region. With my confirm that the core issue of the Middle East, I believe it's the Palestine issue.
Of course.
The problem is that some people do say that we are a little bit absent. They are an excuse to be absent about regarding the Palestinian issue and the details, because of that they are sinking in their own details, and it's not a suitable excuse, by the way. On the other hand, can we reach some kind of peaceful agreement with the Israelis? I say that we, the Palestinians, we are willing to. We are hoping we can reach for such kind of peace agreement. But are the Israelis ripe for that? Does they have a real leadership that believes in peace? If they have this kind of leadership, can they deploy any kind of peace agreement? I don't believe so. What happened is that the Benjamin Netanyahu, he was elected twice for 2 terms, as a Prime Minister of Israel.
Which is an indication of where the political trend is in Israel.
They elected Benjamin Netanyahu with his ideology, with his fundamentalism against the Arabs, and I say against even the Israeli society. I believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is changing the rules, the constitutions, the laws of Israel, that they have been proud that they are the only democratic country in the region. This is what they said. Now, if any researcher did go and read their constitution and their new laws that they are creating under the role of Benjamin and the other settlers, leaders who are very fundamentalist, and I call them terrorists. They are changing the laws and they are changing it into non-democratic state. It's something very aggressive against the citizens and the people who are
another apartheid state.
Yes, it's an apartheid, and this is what's happening in the Palestinian lands, over the Palestinian lands, by the Israeli occupation forces. They are confirming that they are occupation. They are confirming that they are terrorists. They are confirming that they are against the international will. They are confirming that they are against any kind of resolution of the UN. This is what they are doing. But now the problem is that the whole countries, and I believe the peoples even, the peoples of the whole world now do believe that the Palestinians do have their right to establish their independent state over the lands of historic Palestine. But I believe that even though that the UN organization and these states by themselves, they are not practicing any kind of accessible or acceptable pressure over the Israeli leaders. So,
but how can you pressure the Israelis in the United Nations if every time a situation is presented in the UN Security Council, the US vetoes it?
Yes,
you have a veto, Security Council 242, 338, and the whole list that has not been implemented, and some of the resolutions are under Chapter 7.
That's right.
I agree with that. So we are saying that how would the international
but you're criticizing the Arab League, while at the same time the United Nations is facing the same issue, whereby you cannot implement the legitimate laws of the land.
Allow me to say something here, excuse me, Mr. Ambassador. Is accusing the Arab League because it's their case. It's not the United Nations case. It's our case.
No, it is a United Nations case. No, it's an international organization.
No. United Nations operates on the benefits of the members. Palestine is
the United Nations has issued. You have Security Council resolutions that have been issued under Chapter 7 of the United Nations Security Council that have not been implemented by the United Nations, which is an international organization.
They're not represented in the United Nations.
This is not an issue for Palestine. It's an Arab issue that was the case in the Security Council.
Right.
And the Security Council could not, due to the American stringent, incessant support of Israel and the legitimate actions that have been practiced in the occupied territories, yet the United Nations, with all its clout, was not able to fulfill its charter.
Right. If you take your question, Mr. Ayman, and apply that into Serbia, it was implemented. What I'm trying to say is...
Yes, because the superpowers allowed it to be implemented.
Right. And therefore, it confirms what I said earlier. We need a superpower to be behind the Palestinians. And the only superpower that becomes interested in the Palestinian case, because it's their baby, are the Arabs. So all I was saying earlier is we need to move into parallel directions, or two parallel ways. Number one, the Palestinians will continue back and forth into the negotiation because of their interest and their good faith, let's say. But on the Arab League, we need to reform the way we're dealing with the issue.
I'm not against what you're saying, by the way. I support what you're saying. But what I'm saying is, the current situation, you're being faced with a status quo that is being created day after day.
Right.
Now, in order to stand up to what is taking place and to prevent a new status quo from being presented or from being de facto,
Yeah.
there needs to be some sort of action that will force the Israelis
It's not
back
gonna
to the
happen.
negotiating table.
It's not going to happen. The world, number one, the world respects the powerful. Overnight, Russia decided to go into Syria. Everybody kept quiet because it's the power that talks. In Palestine,
They didn't keep quiet till now.
well,
But they can't do
we
anything
talk.
about it.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, I'm talking about an action,
Right.
physical action.
Right.
The fact here is, if we had a power in the Middle East or an Arab that is a respectable nation, let's say, because people, Israelis are taking the Arabs for granted. The weak nations, they can't do anything, they just talk. And this is what confirmed by Moshe Dayan. We just talk, and they know that. So the fact here is,
That's what they said until 1973.
well, but that's an individual action. It's not a collective action based on a nation. I acted on an
But it was
individual-
collective. You had Egypt, you had Syria, and you had the Palestinians as well. It was collective at the
I'm
time.
talking about a nation, I'm talking about a nation that needs to have its place. 23 countries, 500 million people that got no weight.
Let me take you to a practical approach.
Right.
Huh? You had the first intifada, you had the second intifada. Some people are saying a third intifada is in the offing. Do you think a third intifada is in the offing?
I think it is, and it will, from my point of view, it will create some progress because Israelis need to be pressurized in a not diplomatic way, because the diplomatic, they're violating all rules by United Nations, they're not applying anything, the world is basically putting diplomatic pressure and political pressure, they're not accepting anything, and they announced, as we heard from Mr. Ambassador, they go into East Jerusalem, they're going to take the whole of Palestine. So the fact here is they're challenging the world. So we need to find another approach to...
So maybe this can be an
enforce.
approach. But why is President Mahmoud Abbas so adamant on a peace process that will not be looked into by the Israelis, and even so will not be respected until the Palestinians create a new status quo?
Let me try to form it in different words. What's happening, and regarding the question of are we on the doors of new intifada or a third intifada, as you said, this terminology, or not? And in between, I would respond to the question that you gave now. What's happening is provoking the emotions and the of the Palestinians, and I can say also the whole Arabs who are living in the region since very, very, very long time, since thousands of years that we are the owners of this region. The Israelis are not understanding that, and they are trying to create a new status quo, as you said, by saying that they are the real owners of this place.
And make the world believe that
Make the world believe that they have some kind of temple under the building of the Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is incorrect. Deeply, frankly, scientifically,
practically.
This is incorrect, and they are telling false and lies. So what they are creating by using the violence against the Palestinians, I don't believe that will be accepted by the Palestinians. We are acting on the ground now, and in refusing the Israeli actions, using peaceful means of resistance against the Israelis. So, as you are admiring the first intifada, as you said, and I'm not accepting the terminology, I would accept that this is that was called the 1987 the Stones Intifada. We call it like that, Intifadat al-Hijara. So and that was very peaceful, and it was only that the biggest weapon that we used against the Israelis was the stone, and to start some kind of clashes by the demonstrators. This is what's happening now, and I hope that we would continue keeping it in this peaceful way against the Israelis. While, on the other hand, the Israelis are starting creating the actions using intensive, very intensive open fire against the Palestinians. Does that mean that we are or we are going to an intifada? I'm saying now and loudly, we are now on Al-Aqsa, on Jerusalem, Al-Quds, anger.
Anger.
Yes. What's happening that the people are responding by their own selves and expressing their anger from invading the Al-Aqsa mosque and demolishing the houses of the people of Jerusalem, Al-Quds, and this is very, very inhuman. Other people who are living in the West Bank, the Palestinians, all the Palestinian lands, they are responding, supporting the people of Al-Quds, Jerusalem, by the demonstrations that we are organizing to show the world that the people of Jerusalem cannot be left alone. So, is it going to start? I'm saying that
it's being built up.
It's been built up, yes. It's been, the Israelis did build up this by their excessive force and intensive force they are using against the Palestinians, and by provoking, we have to sign that also, by provoking the emotions, the spirits of the whole Muslims who are more than 1.5 billion all over the world, by invading the Al-Aqsa Mosque and by the churches of the Palestinians and burning some parts of these holy sites. This cannot be accepted by any kind of religious person or even if he's not religious. Only a man, only a person that believes in humanity cannot be accepting what's happening. The serious crimes were created by the Israelis during the last very close period. Unfortunately, or frankly, I don't know how to describe it, but it was made by rabbis, Jewish rabbis. Rabbis, that who kidnapped little Palestinian children and make them swallow benzene, fuel, and started to burn them up while they are alive. So the rabbis are creating the problems. So they are trying to push the issue as if it is a problem, as if it is between two religions. This game is very serious, very dangerous, and they are playing a very dangerous game in the region.
Why is it that the rabbis, just a question that popped into my head right now, why is it that the rabbis in the US come out to protest the creation of the State of Israel and the presence of a state called Israel, and state clearly that the Jewish religion does not accept the creation of the State of Israel, while the rabbis in Israel commit such atrocious actions against the Palestinians? Why is it that the rabbis in the US that come out in demonstrations? Please, go ahead.
Because Judaism was created in the Arab world. So we, the Palestinians, the Egyptians, the Arabs, we know Judaism more the ones who are coming from different countries.
Zionists.
Yes, this is Zionism, what they are doing, who are tried and still trying to create the State of Israel. They are the Zionists. The Jews, we know them. And we know that they know
they're part of us.
Yes. We know that they know that it's not their right to do what Benjamin Netanyahu and the other fundamentalists, what they are doing in the Palestinian lands. So they are not accepting what's happening. The real Jews are not accepting. But such fundamentalists, such terrorists, they are doing this and they are creating that. So that's why in the beginning of my answers to your question, I said that I believe that Benjamin Netanyahu is not only creating problems for the Palestinians. I said that he's also creating problems for the Israeli people. And he is not suitable for the Israeli people if they are planning to...
They elected him.
they elected him.
Which is an indication.
Which is a very important indication that they are believing, the majority of Israel, the people of Israel are believing in terrorism and practicing terrorism against their neighbors. Either they are Palestinians or some others. Why did I say that? Because they are acting aggressively against the Syrians. They are acting also in an aggressive way against the Lebanese, against so many, against the Egyptians. Different wars against the Egyptians. So they are creating wars against everyone around them. Them. They are trying to create a problem with other countries in the region. So the question is that the whole world now does know that the problem is in Israel. The problem is in the mentality of the politicians of Israel. And the problem is that these politicians are pushing their audience, are pushing their citizens towards being very aggressive, bloody, and accepting the idea of killing the others to keep themselves only alive. This is...
On that note, let me take it on from there and ask Dr. Ahmed, the issue of alienating from the international community, how did you perceive the reception of Benjamin Netanyahu's speech in the United Nations? As a political science professor, you probably delved into the different analysis of that speech.
Let's all, first of all, that international community, as Mr. Ambassador said, needs to take an action to support the third wave of whether it's Nevada or supporting rights of the Jerusalem anger, the third wave. And I think as a collective action, as it continues to what we spoke about before, at least to withdraw the ambassadors. And Egypt can be. You can call upon the Israeli ambassador and inform him that what's happening in Israel and in Palestine is not acceptable. And here is a collective action that the Arabs at least can take. Who will take it? Now, in terms of Benjamin Netanyahu, there is always in a political science science is just a game. There's something on the table and there's something behind the table or below the table. What Benjamin Netanyahu is playing under the table with the United States and other countries. And the same thing applies when you ask, why is Russia going to Syria now after destruction of 10 years or 5 years? So the fact here is there's always ideologies and agendas under the table that is being implemented. And this is what Benjamin Netanyahu relies on. He knows that whatever is said at the Security Council, whatever is said at the General Assembly meeting, nothing is going to happen. And he can always talk about peace and accuse Palestinians of being terrorists, because in the end, this is just going to be notes taken and the books will be closed and we'll go back to the reality. And the reality is that are drawn under the table are the ones that are implemented. So if he's got the courage, and the members of the United Nations General Assembly are there, why haven't they talked to him about the settlements that you're building? Why haven't they told him about the killing of civilians or pushing the Palestinians out of their land, having 6 million outside? Because nobody talks, and they all know. They all know. Whatever is happening at the Security Council or the General Assembly is just talks. It's all to greet each other, having nice meals, and in the end comes back to reality, and this is what's implemented. So he's not worried about what happens on the international organizations.
In the public arena. When it comes to the situation in Palestine, you have the situation in the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and you have the situation in Gaza. Gaza is being perceived, nobody looks at the Palestinians, the honorable Palestinians living in Gaza, but rather they look at the negative aspect of Gaza, which is us and what it represents as terrorism, if you will. Can there be a support for a joint collective action, Gaza, West Bank, and East Jerusalem, or can there be a conciliation between the Hamas members and Fatah?
It happened before in a joint government, and it was rejected by the United States. Actually pushing you into the fourth generation of war is basically cause the destruction from within. by the people themselves. So pushing Hamas, supporting them in the wrong direction to keep always creating a negative image about Palestinians as a whole and the Gaza Strip, as you kindly mentioned. So the fact here, the world looks at Gaza Strip as a group of terrorists, unfortunately, because it was covered very well by the Western media, and that's how it's been framed. So Western Gaza at this point been framed as an area of that hosts basically a group of terrorists. Taking another examples, pushing the border or the gates onto Egypt a few years back. So all these actions are framed to support the idea that Gaza Strip and Israelis come up on the media saying we're not going to negotiate with Palestinians as long as Hamas is practicing what they're doing. So the fact is they make you create your own negative image, and then I come up, even though I actually supported you.
All right, but here,
come back and say,
right,
I'm not going to sit with you.
But here this is a role for Palestinians themselves. This is something for the Palestinians to settle. How is the support for Hamas in the Gaza Strip?
Very weak. Very, very weak.
Then how come it's still in power?
Because they have the power.
The power, you mean military power?
Military power, yes. No one has any power but the Hamas. We are talking about the military power, of course. There is no existence of the state, of the institutions of the state. There is no sign of the existence of the government over the Palestinian, over the Gaza Strip lands. The only existed powers are Hamas. And because the question did last for a longer time than everyone did expect, so they created their own administrations, calling that they are the Palestinian National Authority. This is what they are saying. So they succeeded in exporting the image that they are the authority, they are the government, they have their own prime minister, and every...
Well, now they've succeeded in exporting their terrorist image.
Exactly.
This is what in the image in the media, because I'm not there and I cannot say what's the reality happening. But this is the image. So no one is accepting what's happening in Gaza Strip. But the people are under the real people, the people of Palestine who are living inside Gaza, which are more than 1,700,000.
Living under duress, would you say?
Yes, they are living there, not accepting Hamas, but they are covered with the image that they are all Hamas, and this is incorrect. They are not accepting they are refusing that they even, some of them did elect Hamas, but the people are, the different world are punishing them that they supported Hamas for 1, 2 days, months, 1 year, something like that. So they are all under punishment because of the existence of Hamas. But are they accepting the existence of Hamas? No, they are not accepting. But Hamas has the power to keep staying in a militant way. The other thing is that for your question to Dr. Ahmad, His Excellency, saying that are there any opportunities of having a Palestinian reunion again? I say yes, we can do that, but this is also theoretical. Practically, I'm saying people of Gaza, and I'm one of them, by the way, we suffered too much from the Israeli occupation, but we also suffered, unfortunately, from Hamas existence in the rule. So, as a politician, I can tell you that there is no kind of acceptance of the people of having reconciliation with Hamas. But I can say that there can be a political
deal reached.
Deal, we can say. I would want to say partnership, but it's not a partnership. It's a political deal between the two parties that they can go for forming a new government, running the lives of the people. And it can be done. But reconciliation, I believe that people will never accept the existence of Hamas in their political life.
It's taking you too long. It took us 1 year. Anyway.
Yes, I agree with that. That's why we told, by the way, this is an opportunity to say that people in Palestine, especially in Gaza, when Egypt was going to elect their new president, and they did that, the first ones who were very happy, pleased, and full of hope, the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip, we were very, very hopeful that after the electing of the new president, Mr. Sisi, that the next step will be that his existence in Gaza. The people, the dream.
And if you apply the same situation in Egypt, you'll find that the political front always creates that image around the country. And this is what Egypt suffered during the Muslim Brotherhood. The entire country becomes
I don't like to call the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, it has nothing to do with Muslims.
We're using terminology.
Nothing to do with Islam.
Hamas and the creation of Hamas, would that fall under what you labeled the creation fourth generation warfare?
Absolutely. It's creating the destruction from within. And
so its creation was part of the fourth generation warfare.
The plan to challenge the Egyptian army was 2011-2012 as part of a total destruction started in 1978 by Jimmy Carter and was given later on to Mubarak. The fact here is they create power in the country, create a civil war. So Muslim Brotherhood was actually pushed. The Americans know very well that the Muslim Brotherhood cannot, or the Brotherhood cannot run the country. But the fact is, it's a tool to hit the Egyptian army. Same thing that happened with Fatah. Fatah has been there for a long time. The entire Arab world knows about Mr. Yasser Arafat, rahmatullah alayhi. The fact here, when did Hamas come up? And they all creating problems with the neighbors and creating problems with Egypt, the country that always supports them. So the fact here is, I think they're causing more harm than good to the Palestinian case, exporting the negative image about Palestine, and this is what's used by the Israeli media, that we're not going to...
Dr. Mehna, let me ask you, because we're running out of time, would the presence of, the current presence of Russia in the region, especially in Syria, and the expectation of going into Iraq as well, based upon the invitation by the Iraqi government, can that present a new status quo in the region that might lead to
a resolution to...
I won't say a resolution, but I would say some kind of movement?
No, it will be against the Arabs. Number one, what you will see now, and people are thinking that Russia is going there to settle the situation. You will see Syria will be divided, Iraq will be divided, Lebanon is going to vanish from the civil war. Russia entry into the scene is actually going to make it worse for the Syrians because they're all invading Syria. In the end, it gives power to Israel because the surroundings are all weak. So what encourages, what puts pressure on Israel to come into the table? What puts them put pressure on them to come into the table in 1973 to 1975 and 77 and 79 because the fact they were broken from the war. That's the only reason they came into the table. And therefore, I still believe that Israel needs to be pressurized, but not from the diplomatic way. They need to be pressurized by a nation that you have to put a solution or we're not going to accept the status quo. This is what's going to happen in the next few years, and we hope at least withdraw your ambassadors. You know, to support the Jerusalem anger, the third wave. But at this point, Mr. Ayman, nothing is going to happen. It's actually emptying the region around them. And imagine, God forbid, if Egypt was the same case as Syria, would you expect that Palestine would have lost the past, would have been gone? If Egypt collapsed during the Brotherhood, God forbid, Palestine would have been gone. In 2 days, would have been taken. Because at the moment, these superpowers are actually emptying the region around Israel to create basically a comfort. And the same thing ties with it, 5+1 with Iran. Now they are allowing Iran to Houthis with Yemen. It's all conspiracy. And unfortunately, we've got some countries from the Arab world that are actually supporting the conspiracy, whether they are benefiting from it or that they're not actually understanding the fact.
Yeah, I would call it interests rather than conspiracy. Each country would look for its own interests.
Well, interest if you want to something that keep me alive. A conspiracy if you want to gain something and kill me. And at this point, you're not keeping these countries alive. You've got 6 million Iraqis drinking water from a sewage. You've got 6 million Palestinians in Europe, 2.5 in Egypt. This benefit? I don't think it's interest or benefit. It's a conspiracy to wipe out the entity of a nation that has been always weak to stand up for their own rights and stand 500 million, but we've got no...
You're a professor of political science. That's what history tells us. There's no room for the weak.
Absolutely.
Would you agree that the presence of Russia is not in the benefit of the Arab region or the Palestinian case?
I would say my personal opinion, not I believe the existence of the second power in the world, which was again declared in the 70s session of the UN. This was one of the conclusions. Existence in Syria now, it is a part of tafkik, dismantling the Arab countries for the next step. In 2005, I wrote an article saying that we are going for a new era of SNICO, which means dividing the region
of the Arab world.
In 2010, or at the beginning of 2011, I was an international conference, strategic conference, and I said that these are not Arab Spring. What's going to happen is to try to collapse the Arab countries. Some countries will vanish, I agree with you. Some other countries will be created, I agree with you. So this is the reality that we are facing. The important thing is that not to be settled. We, the Arabs, we shouldn't be settled and to say, La ilaha, it's going to be played like that, so we have to wait. No, don't wait. You have to be a very good player, and you have to create your own power to influence the others, not to let the others create your own future. We have the power, we have the ability to do that, but we don't have the decision.
Your Excellency, Ambassador Hazem Abu Shanab, member of the Revolutionary Council of Fatah Movement, it was indeed having you here with us tonight on
Thank
the
you.
show.
I still have one sentence to say before you...
Very quickly.
Yes, that next Jum'ah, next Friday, we are going to have another day of anger. I hope that everyone can express their anger regarding supporting Al-Quds, Jerusalem, in the next Friday.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Dr. Ahmed Mahanna, Political Science Professor.
Thank you.
A pleasure to have you.
I would like to
here.
announce from this place in 90V, the front of Egypt. I think we supported the third wave of Jerusalem anger, and we encourage all the Arab states at least to withdraw their ambassadors and send the Israeli ambassadors
clear message.
out of their
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed Mahanna, Ambassador Hazem Abu Shanab. Before wrapping up, I have one thing to say. Everything that has been said on the table here brings one sentence to my mind. The sentence that was made by President El-Sisi when he talked to the Arab world, and he said in Arabic, خلوا بالكم من بلادكم. Take care of your countries. On that note, good night.
Excellent.